For you. Join me in this session to talk about a new memo that USCIS issued yesterday, July 1st, which now makes it possible for some people to adjust their status. Guys, this is great news, and us immigration lawyers are so thrilled by this. Watch this video to learn the details. Share this with your feed and others who may need this information. But essentially, yesterday, USCIS issued a memo saying we're rescinding an old decision from 2020, which prevented TPS holders who had entered the United States without inspection, preventing them from adjusting their status. And I'm going to break it down for you in this one, what it means for those of you out there with TPS and those of you who are in the application process for TPS, and how you might be able to adjust your status. But for those of you who are new to me, welcome. Welcome to my channel. I'm LaToya McBean Pompey, an immigration lawyer in New York, working with clients all over the world on complex immigration matters. Reach out to us at McBeanLaw.com or call or text us at 516-866-3900 to request a consultation with one of our attorneys. Also, friends, subscribe to obviously McBean Immigration TV, my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and also subscribe to our firm's weekly newsletter. We send out terrific newsletters each week on various immigration topics, news, Q&As, stories, and many other different issues around immigration. So subscribe today at McBeanLaw.com to this free newsletter. All right, guys, let's talk about this really terrific news. And as I've said, as you're coming on board and watching the session, tell me your name and how you're feeling today and where you're watching from. Okay, so USCIS issued, guys, the memo yesterday, and it rescinds matter of ZRZC. And this memo deals with TPS holders and their ability to travel and ability to adjust their status in the United States. Now, I'm going to show you this really terrific screenshot here, and I'm going to walk you through it momentarily. But let me just jump back on here and just lay the groundwork for you before we get into what this really means in that screenshot that I just pulled up in front of you. But in the memo, guys, on page 1 of the memo, the first thing that it says is in a footnote, as a matter of fact, and I'll read the footnote. It says that the government will issue a new travel document to those of you with TPS. The footnote says this: the new TPS travel document will be available to non-citizens who are in valid TPS status. Those of you, however, who seek travel authorization based on a pending initial application for TPS may continue to apply under the advanced parole procedures. And so what it's saying is this: if you already have valid TPS status, stay tuned. You're going to get a new travel document that it will be issued to you, and they'll tell you more instructions about it as time goes on. But for those of you who have applied for the very first time for TPS and your application is pending, you can continue to file I-131 form to apply for advanced parole. And those instructions are still on the government's website. Follow those instructions. The memo also says this, guys, secondarily. It says that for those of you, it says that on page 2, TPS beneficiaries to whom DHS has inspected and admitted into TPS, subsequent to that inspection and admission, will have been considered inspected and admitted and are present in the United States pursuant to a lawful admission, including for purposes of adjustment of status under INA 245. Listen carefully to this sentence. This is true even if the TPS beneficiary was present without admission or parole when initially granted TPS. And so what it's saying here, guys, is those of you who had entered without inspection and you had then been granted TPS, if you had left the United States and subsequently been admitted and inspected and admitted the government considers that to be enough so that you may seek adjustment of status. And so now is a good time for me to pull up my little chart here to show you exactly how this works. So again, if you entered without inspection and then you got TPS, if you got advanced parole, the travel document, and you traveled abroad, you left. I know some TPS holders who got advanced parole, but they didn't leave. They were afraid to leave. But if you travel abroad with your travel document, advanced parole, and you come back in through a process that is called parole, you're paroled into the United States humanitarian based on a humanitarian reason of you being a TPS holder, you can now apply for adjustment of status. That's precisely what is now the case. Now, this was the case, guys, before Trump became president, and the matter of ZRZC went into effect in 2020 under the Trump years. This was the case. This was the case. TPS holders were allowed to adjust their status after they came back in under advanced parole. But now, guys, you may be also saying, well, last year you told us, and we read in the news that the U.S. Supreme Court had um, issued a decision about TPS holders saying that TPS holders cannot adjust their status. And yes, that is true. The U.S. Supreme and the memo addresses the U.S. Supreme Court decision. But if you recall, and I may link to that video here. But if you recall, the Supreme Court decision says just because you were granted TPS doesn't mean that you had lawful admission to come into the United States. So, for purposes of adjustment of status, if you entered without inspection, you're still not going to be eligible for adjustment of status, despite the fact that you have TPS. That's what the Supreme Court said last year. But the Supreme Court did not go as far as also making a decision with respect to parole. What happens if that TPS holder then leaves the United States under advanced parole, and then we parole them back in, saying, "Come on in, come on back in." What then? Supreme Court didn't make a decision on that issue. And so, because it didn't make a decision on that issue, USCIS, or the Department of Homeland Security, through their smart attorneys, decided, well, we still have the authority to change things and allow for TPS holders who had been paroled back in to now be able to adjust their status, because the Supreme Court did not make a decision on that. So that's where this is today. Of course, it's possible that certain states may even challenge this new policy, as some states are aggressively challenging the Biden administration policies. But as of now, as of today, obviously this new policy is in effect, and so you should definitely take advantage of this opportunity while it is available to you. Okay, and so guys, that's key. I've already talked to you about the new travel document will be issued for those of you who have valid TPS, but you might be saying, well, what about me? I have some issues on my record. I've been thinking about applying for TPS, but I'm not too sure. I have a criminal history, or I have some serious things on my record, violations. What then? Well, the government has carved out an opportunity that allows some TPS holders with inadmissibility problems to be able to apply for a waiver. And we do those waivers for TPS holders who need the waiver. Get screened to ensure that your case is one that will need that a waiver is available for. And if it's available for it, then it must be filed along with the TPS application. Okay. Then the other thing I want you to think about, guys, is if you're in removal, or you have a removal order and you have TPS, and it looks, there's so much going on, can you even apply for adjustment of status? Get your case looked at also to determine whether yours is one that can be terminated. Your removal proceeding can be terminated. Although prosecutorial discretion is under attack and the Doyle memo has been placed on hold because of litigation, because of a judge's decision in Texas, doesn't mean that the prosecutorial power or discretion that these lawyers for DHS is entirely gone. They are still making decisions based on their discretion. And we're still working on those types of cases for our clients around the country. So don't give up hope if you have a removal order, or if you are in removal and all of this is happening, these good news, and you're thinking, how could I benefit from this? It's still in removal. Get your case assessed. Get it assessed to see what is possible for you, because you can, for some people, they could very well get out of the whole removal mess. Okay, and we help people with that, people who are eligible to get out of it. All right. So guys, that's what's going on. Again, in summary, USCIS has basically rescinded a decision from 2020, which now makes it possible for those of you who entered without inspection and you have TPS to be able to travel, get your travel document. You have to be approved for that, and then leave the country, come back in through lawful admission, and you'll be able at that point to adjust your status. Don't forget to subscribe to our firm's newsletter, guys, at McBeanLaw.com, and subscribe to my channel. And guys, thanks so much for being with me in this one. And I will see you in the next one. Have a wonderful July 4th.